Okay, hello and welcome back to Sincerely Jen Patterns YouTube channel. So, today what I'm making is a towel topper. So out of fabric, I'm gonna sew a top piece on the towel so that I can then snap it over the handle on my stove or the towel bar in the bathroom, because you know, if you don't secure your towels in place, the kids just throw them all over the floor. So, I have a lot of these that my grandma actually made crocheting. I don't crochet, and I want some new kitchen towels, so I thought, I'll sew some. And then I thought, you know, the members of my Facebook group could probably use another little freebie quick pattern, and these are awesome, and they make great gifts, because who doesn't need towels? So, to get started, you'll want to download the pattern, which I will have linked below in the description box. If you join my Facebook group, which there's also a link there for that, you'll be able to find the coupon code to get this pattern for free, and it's going to be pinned in the announcement section. So look for the pin post in the announcements that's welcoming everybody to the group. There are actually other freebie patterns that are linked there as well. So okay, you want to print your pattern using Adobe Reader and print it at 100%. If you only want to print the pattern piece, you'll print page 4, and there will be a 1-inch square on the pattern piece. Measure that to make sure that it measures and that you printed your pattern correctly. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and get that cut out. I already cut mine. So you want a quilting cotton. If you use heavier fabric, that's fine too. This is just quilting cotton. This is from Cotton and Steel, I think. And I cut 2 of these. One will be the front, and then because this is directional, I cut the other one upside down because this will be the back, and that way the flap, when it flips over, will have the print in the correct direction. So keep that in mind. And also, if your fabric is directional, you might want to get a little bit more than a quarter yard, because you will have to lay the fabric piece out sideways to get them out of a quarter yard, because a quarter yard is only 9 inches tall, and this is taller than 9 inches. Okay, and then you will have 2 pieces also cut from Pellon Shape Flex SF101 Fusible Woven Interfacing. This is like a very thin woven fabric. It has glue on one side that you use on an iron. You iron this to the wrong side of your fabric, so just follow the instructions to fuse that to the fabric. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so I've now fused the interfacing to the back. Different brands have different directions for how to fuse it. What I do with the Pellon Shape Flex is place the fabric right side down, place the interfacing glue side down onto the wrong side of the fabric, and then I mist it with water from a spray bottle, and then I iron it, set on high, and steam on. And that seems to fuse it pretty well, and it pre-shrinks the interfacing, so that way later when you wash it, it's not going to shrink differently than your fabric and cause wrinkling that you will not be able to get out. Okay, so both of those are prepared. And we also want to use the pattern piece to mark the snap placement on the right side of one topper piece. So I'm going to do that on this piece. You just want to poke a hole directly in the center of each snap placement. I'm going to use regular pen to mark this, something that is not going to come off as you work with it when you iron it, and it will be under a snap, so it's not like you'll see it later. And I just put a dot at each of those locations. Okay, there are my 2 snap placements. All right, now I'm going to set these aside for now, and we'll do the towel. So first, these towels are 15 inches by 25 inches, which I think is pretty standard. Some of the towels that I bought, I noticed, are 16 inches wide. that's fine, and you can use those. You would just sew this using a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance instead of a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and it will fit just the same. So what I did was I unfolded my towel. I already cut the blue one, and I iron it, and then I measured to find the center. These were nice because they have lines on them, and then I just cut it directly down the center so that I have 2 pieces. So here I have my 2 halves of the towel. Then I went along the cut edge, and because it's 15 inches wide, I know that every 5 inches is 1/3. So I just made a mark at the 5-inch mark and a mark at the 10-inch mark. And I used Sharpie so that it would show up. So here are my 2 marks. And then I went to my iron and I folded the one side over to that mark and made sure it was lined up. And then I fold the other side over to the other fold. And then I pressed it really well. So now it's nice and flat, and my towel is folded into thirds. Okay, now I'm going to baste stitch across the top folded section of this, just so that it stays folded. So I have my sewing clips. You could use pins. And I'm just going to sew this using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, just to make sure that it stays folded as you make your towel. I like to use, you don't need to use an industrial sewing machine. You can use any regular home sewing machine for this. This is just the machine I usually sew on, so that's what I'm using right now. And also thread, I prefer polyester thread. I'm using a heavier thread because this is an industrial sewing machine. But any all-purpose thread is fine. A needle, I usually would use a bigger size, so maybe I have a size 20 in mine, again because of this thread being heavier, so I would use like a 14 to 20. Pretty standard, I think. Okay, so now we've got our towel sectioned into thirds. We're going to place the 2 topper pieces right sides together, matching all the raw edges. And we're going to pin or clip all the way around. You hear that I live close to the railroad tracks. Okay, now starting at the bottom, we're going to sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And we'll just start sewing there, and then make sure you back stitch when you start and when you stop. And we're leaving the bottom edge open right now. I go carefully and slowly around the curves, sometimes taking it 1 or 2 stitches at a time, and then lift the presser foot to go around the curve to make sure that your curve stays nice and smooth and that they're both even when you're done. When you get to the corner, stop with your needle in the down position and rotate. It's important to always adjust with your needle in the down position so that your whole project doesn't get shifted. and then again back stitch when you get to the end. Okay, now I need my scissors. We're going to go ahead and trim the seam allowance down all the way around the line of stitching. We're cutting it down to about 1/8 of an inch. And this will ensure that the edges curve nicely when you turn it right side out without clipping into the curves, like notching. I feel like this is much easier than notching. Now again, if your towel was a little bit wider, just go ahead and sew this using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, or you can even sew just the sides using a 1/4 inch and keep the tab portion with a 1/2 inch seam allowance so that it's not wider as well. Okay, now we're just going to turn this right side out through the opening in the bottom. I have this little wooden tool that I use for turning right side out. You can use a chopstick. They sell tools specifically for turning things. And I just will run it all the way along the edges inside to make sure that it's turned out nicely. Just like that. I'm going to go to my iron now and press all of the seams. And I also will roll the seams between my fingers like this to make sure that they're completely turned out. So just take your time and make sure that everything is nice and flat at the iron. Alright, so I pressed everything nice and flat, and now I have the open raw edge at the bottom, which I want to turn inside by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to fold that inside by 1/2 inch and iron it, and then I'll flip it over and fold the other side in until all the way around the opening is folded in by 1/2 inch. Okay, so the entire opening is evenly pressed inside by 1/2 inch. At this point, we're going to go ahead, make sure that you have the part that you want to be facing up, facing you. So when you fold your tab down, that the side that you want to show on the tab is the right direction. And I have my towel situated in such a way that the folds are at the back. And so here you see the front and center. So this is also perfect for everyone who likes to embroider, and you embroider designs on your towels. You get 2 towels this way because you cut it in half. So extra for embroidery. These would be great for selling at craft fairs. Alright, so you just slide the towel inside, and I like to slide it in by about 1 inch. And again, these towels are nice because they have these lines on them, so I can tell that it's nice and straight. Okay, and then you'll just want to pin that in place. I'm just going to slip a couple clips on to hold it. And now we're going to sew around. I have these longer clips. I think that would be nice to hold that in place better than the shorter clips. Okay, so first we're going to top stitch all the way around the topper using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm just going to start here, and I'm using a longer stitch length for my top stitching, so I set my machine to a stitch length of 5. If I was using a machine with less heavy thread, I would probably use a stitch length of 3.5 or 4. So I'm just going to do a couple stitches and then back stitch, and then stitch all the way across. And I'm using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then I stop when I get an 1/8 of an inch from the other side, and then I'll just turn, and I'm going to top stitch all the way around the topper. Okay, and then when I reach the end, I want to back stitch across again using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm actually just going to back stitch a couple stitches while my needle is still down, and then rotate and sew across one more time. If it's not exactly a 1/4 inch, that's fine. This is probably more like 1/2 inch. And then just back stitch a few stitches. All right, now we just need to install the snap and we're done. Okay, so these are cam snaps. They're plastic. Both sides have a cap. There are similar snaps, I think, at Joann's. Even I think Walmart has, or at least had at some point, a similar type of snap. So they come with an awl, however you say that. I'm going to use my stiletto that's for sewing, and I'm just going to pop a hole through the fabric. You can also cut it with like a leather hole punch if you have that. And I'm going to do the same at the other dot. If you have a different type of snap and they don't have caps on both sides, you may want to install them in the front piece of your topper before sewing the two sides together so that the non-capped sides don't show on the exterior. So I just need 2 caps, and then one like receiver side, or I don't know what you call them, the male and female, I guess. So this is what I need. So I'm just going to take 1/2, place my cap on the back side with the prong. Is that called a prong? I don't know. With that thing poking through the hole. And then I have my hand pliers here. And then I'll just set the snap in place. And I like to kind of rotate it and press again just to make sure that I have it, the center prong flattened out completely. And then I'll do the same at the other location. Okay. They do make different types of presses for these also, instead of using the hand pliers. Just make sure that you get that center post flattened nicely. And that's it. And now you can put it over your towel bar, over the handle on your oven, and your towels won't be on the floor. You could also, if you wanted to, you could make it so it snapped to the back, and then you just don't see the tab at the top. So, all right, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Head over to my Facebook Sewing Patterns group so you can see all the fun that we have there. Mostly I make bags, but sometimes different things like this. So thanks for watching.